The year is 2022 AD, and evil geniuses have just sold their North American roster and bought up an entirely South American roster. Alliance have also invested in the region, so it's looking like it's going to be the most exciting year ever for the SA DPC, but nobody knew what was about to come. I'm going to tell you guys the story of the SA DPC so far this year, and it is a wild ride, so strap yourselves in. In December, they announced who the broadcasters are going to be for every single region, and over in South America, they got themselves somebody called ESB. Now, you guys might not know these guys, but these are the electronic sports broadcasting guys, and essentially, they have a really big portfolio of work across many different titles in esports. They've been around for ages, and they have a massive, massive sponsorship network. Hype was getting big for the SADPC, and they even leaked that they are going to be heading into a LAN for the SADPC, which is huge. So everyone was really excited, but expectations kind of dropped a little bit when Bowie, who's a really cool guy, released a tweet saying that they had been trying to poach for free casting. Which is bad. I mean, I don't need to tell you guys that. Free casting for Division 1 DPC, huge red flag. We also had some stuff going on with Cap on Reddit. Someone was like, oh, they got rejected for a talent offer. Now, what actually happened was Cap offered to organize the English broadcast, and he just basically sent them a pitch. They said no. There's literally no drama. Like, this kind of thing happens all the time in business. You know, he had an idea, he pitched it. They were like, we're going to do something else. Okay, chill. Don't worry, no drama yet. But day one rolls around eventually, and things are pretty kind of quiet to the build-up, and then the SADPC starts. Everyone's like, fuck yeah, let's go. And we get this.
Rice and egg. Yeah, rice and eggs. Yeah, fried eggs. Yeah,
Fried egg.
Yeah, rice and egg.
Fried
A
egg.
classic, you know, a classic meal.
From Thunder, yeah, the classic meal from Thunder.
Yeah, classic meal, fries and rice. Just a bowl of steamed rice and just one fry. How you like your eggs? So, ¿cómo te gusta el huevo? Frito.
So, what the hell happened here? Well, this was the work of Jeeves and a company called EPL, the European Pro League. Jeeves is a British caster. He worked some Western EU guesting on the kind of ESL stream last year. So, you know, he's been around a little bit. And the sponsors allegedly pulled out last minute for these guys. They had to scramble. Things suddenly took a nosedive for them. All their plans went out the window. And Jeeves basically stepped up and said, all right, I'm going to do the whole thing. I'm going to produce, I'm going to observe, I'm going to host, I'm going to moderate. And that didn't really work out. I mean, you know, we're not surprised, but credit to Jeeves, man. Like, honestly, credit to Jeeves. He gave it a shot. Didn't work, unsurprisingly, but he gave it a shot. He tried to pull off a miracle. And then when he realized it wasn't going to work, he was like, I'm out. I'm done. Backed out, you know, put out a tweet longer, basically explaining everything that went down. You can head over and read that if you want. It's a good read. And yeah, I mean, he basically pulled the plug on himself, and I respect that. So we had kind of a quiet stage for a bit, and then something amazing, something beautiful happened, everybody. It was fantastic. The heavens split apart, the clouds opened, and LD and gods came down with the halos above their heads and said, hey, don't worry, guys, we got this shit covered, and BTS took over the SA broadcast, and they're actually helped out by Kips here, which is the first time she's entered the scene, and as we all know, she's relevant later on, so take note. And BTS come through and they're like, yeah, we'll cover it. Don't worry. And we had a great season. They used all the talent which ESB had been kind of wanting to use. So that was cool. No one got axed. They brought in some of their own guys. It was good. Basically, all that happened was that there was some upsetty players over some tiebreakers. But, you know, other than that, it was pretty much smooth sailing. But unfortunately, BTS weren't sticking around. They did dissolve, unfortunately. That was their last run. So bye-bye BTS. But BTS Brazil took over. Now you might be thinking, oh great, you know, it's just another wing of BTS, but nah, these guys aren't related to BTS at all. BTS Brazil are an entirely separate entity. They're not related to BTS in any way, shape, or form. They're kind of like a venture for BTS, which kind of morphed into its own thing, entirely self-governed. So anything which BTS Brazil does, then don't relate. But they had a relatively decent season for season 2. As far as we could see on the surface, it was basic but functional. So everything was looking fine, but it was cooking behind the scenes. And now we move into Tour 3, and Kips drops an absolute nuke on Twitter. It is my displeasure to announce that most of the SA DPC English casters are on strike due to bottom tier pay. BTS Brazil has abused the privilege of hosting the SA DPC to lure in inexperienced talent and underpay them. Anyone who does not fold gets replaced with cheaper Brazilian talent. So this feels like very, very aggressive kind of rates pushing from BTS Brazil. And how low were the rates, I guess, is probably the biggest question here. Well, obviously, we're not going to talk in absolute numbers here, but Kips had mentioned that it was 1/5 of the Western EU pay. So that's pretty brutal. That's that's a low sum. And they basically just went on to accuse them. There was a whole longer thread. You should read that. Abusing the position, trying to get free casters as well. Like whilst they'd already established at the start, Bowie was like, no free casters, and then like, okay, maybe free casters, but no free casters. And then she also ended by telling people, hold the picket line, don't go and work for these guys. If they come to you with an offer, say the existing casters would like that, which is fair. I think that's super reasonable. So then she went on a interview with esports.gg, where she kind of elaborated on more of the kind of shady business practices with BTS Brazil. A lot of the other SA casters and talent had problems with them in the past as well. And she also shared the list of demands as well, part of which was pay suitable to broadcasting professionals or semi-professionals for Division 1 and Division 2. And the other thing as well was parity between global and Brazilian talent compensation. Basically saying she wants the same amount for that the Brazilian guys are getting. And a few more basic requests just about like workload, scheduling, that kind of stuff. All right, let's get into it. So these are my opinions now. We're done with the facts. This is just going to be what I think about things. If you care about that, stick around. Important to mention that obviously I am a Dota talent. I work within the scene. I have biases. I have things which, I believe and I want to protect myself and my career. And I also know some of the people involved. So take everything with a pinch of salt. Basically, I agree with the tweet fundamentally. Reasonable rates is simple, right? It's what we want, and kicking people for trying to negotiate is just really unfair. Should never be doing that. For many of the people involved with this as well, I think it's really important to mention that casting Division 1 is a huge opportunity for them. It really is. So for them to then take a stand and say, I'm not working, I know that these rates aren't fair, that's cool. So shout out to the people doing that. I think that's great, and I think everybody should always support people who stand up for better pay. I don't think they're being greedy like some people are saying. I really don't. So now we move into some of the different stuff. The specifics, I guess. Kips mentioned sponsors quite a lot. She kind of wanted them to employ someone to hunt for sponsors for them to afford to pay more. Now, finding sponsors in the esports space is one of the hardest things. It's something which is really, really difficult, as anybody knows who's been on the business side. But that doesn't apply here. I mentioned earlier, ESB has sponsors. Apparently, ESB has KFC, Burger King, and Pizza Hut, which is both lucrative and delicious. So surely the money is there. They already have this, but they don't need to find more. The money is there. It's just not going to the English stream. Now, where is it going? Is it going to the Brazilian stream? I mean, I don't think these guys are getting paid, those sorts of rates, which they should be bringing in. But obviously, ESB a huge organization. So, it'll be going to different ventures. It'll be going to different titles. Investments. I'm sure there's a lot of people to pay on the way down as well. So, all this money is kind of getting lost on the way, I guess. I don't know. I can't say anything like that for sure. I'm not a business guy, but the money should be there. That's a weird thing for me, right? And talking about numbers, we can get a little bit nerdy with this stuff, so bear with me. It could be possible that the numbers don't add up, right? It could not make financial sense for them to pay anymore. It is a secondary language stream for a small region, so you could understand it. Would investing more into the English stream yield an audience increase big enough to justify the cost? That's kind of the most important thing here, and that's a question across all of esports. But we can run some numbers here and actually look at some hypotheticals or even some actual data. So by going into the viewership data, we can kind of speculate a little bit more about what's actually going on. So for Tour 2 last season with ePulse, the SA DPC English stream peaked at 8,500 viewers, whilst the Spanish stream peaked at 33,800 viewers, which means the English stream achieved about 25% off the Spanish stream for that tour's most exciting series. So let's compare that to the second tour from this year. The English stream peaked lower at 6,200 viewers, whilst the Spanish stream actually peaked higher at 47,900 viewers. What does that mean? Well, it means that the English stream should have done better this year. If it was following the trend of the Spanish stream, as it probably should have, then it should have achieved, the similar kind of 25% mark. But that kind of dropped by half to 13%. And English viewership fell in a region where viewership was meant to go up. I mean, EG was joining the region, it was supposed to be exciting times for the region. There's a lot of competitiveness going on right now, and English viewership fell, which I think is a big problem. Now, we're yet to see the numbers on the stream without Kips, Bowie, Zeus, and the rest of them. They've only started striking now in Tour 3, so I haven't actually been able to see in detail the numbers which are available just yet. But we can already see that the English stream has fallen in popularity due to the various cuts being made to the region already compared to last year with ePulse, where we had fairer rates, and I've checked that as well. I've talked to the talent, the rates were fairer last year, still not up to the same standard, obviously, as the bigger regions, but they had bigger talent, they had fairer rates, they had like Gareth, the Cost, Arvo was there as well. So, fairly reasonable, and that did show in the viewership. So there is evidently an impact here. The question now is just how much further are these numbers going to fall for Tour 3, and is that going to affect profitability? Now, Kips has said one thing, which is kind of sad, that the BTS Brazil are acting like casters are replaceable. We are replaceable. Unfortunately, there will always be someone willing to do our job for pennies or for free. It is a free market after all, that is true. However, people aren't willing to work for pennies. I respect that. The people involved with this, Rada, Zeus, Kips, Bowie, they're not willing to work for pennies. They won't do it. So the issue is there is no baseline for rates. There is no consistency where we say, for DPC, we have to pay this amount of money. So the only way we can combat that is by being transparent and holding strong on that kind of rate floor. So it's really important that for me, for my job, and then everybody tries to support these guys that are going on strike for this at the moment. Very minor point here as well in the list of demands, but I personally don't think that there should be parity between the English and the Spanish language broadcasters. I think the Spanish language broadcasters should be paid more in a region where the Spanish language is significantly higher, and it is their region. No other region has parity. Comparable, yes. Comparable, absolutely. It might just be like a poor wording choice there. I don't think they should be paid the same, though. I think there should be a little difference, but for sure. That's very minor. Don't let that distract you from the point that they should be paid more. The rates need to be reasonable, considering the circumstances. Also, don't harass the BTS Brazil casters. I hope I don't have to say that, but you need to understand their perspective, right? They probably feel shit about it already. They're in a tough position where they've watched people around them get axed. They don't want to give up that opportunity. It's their call. It's their business at the end of the day. And I don't think we need to pile logs in that fire. It's not their fault. Anyone bringing up Kips' sexual misconduct allegations from the past is... Why? No, it's nothing to do with this. It's just dumb. Go away. No one cares about you. Where are we now? Well, the ball is basically in BTS Brazil's court. We're kind of waiting to see what they're going to say, what they're going to do. I have a feeling, I know the answer, sadly, is that they won't do anything unless there's some sort of intervention. Unfortunately, viewers don't seem to care enough to kind of band together and collectively boycott them. And even if they did, we don't even know if BTS would care then. It seems they just don't really care about the English broadcast, unfortunately. Bottom line, this is a huge disappointment for any English-speaking SA fans, and any SA fans in general, to be honest. It's kind of a black mark on what should have been a really hype season for this region. I don't think anything's going to be changed, but I really hope it does. What do you guys think? What's your take on all of this as a viewer? Because obviously everyone has different perspectives, and I'd like to hear it all, Do you think that someone should step in and do something about this? Do you think that the viewers should collectively boycott, or do you think the cast is stupid for going on strike? I don't know. I want to hear your perspective. I'm open to anything. Again, I tried to kind of be middle ground with this. I did my research. I wanted to kind of, not just go on what my knee-jerk reaction was, but actually consider all points and, try to kind of speculate on what would and wouldn't be fair. But ultimately, I think, I did end up kind of leaning on the caster's side. Funnily enough, I am a caster, so take that into account. But yeah, well, what did you guys think? And also, what did you think of the video? It's kind of a new take for me to do something more kind of reporterish, journalish. I don't know. If you liked it, let me know. If you hated it, then let me know privately and not in public. Okay, thanks. Bye.